While we know that Processmaker can connect to other applications, can Processmaker be embedded within other applications?
Processmaker is ideal for embedding in other applications. We have a whole segment of our business which we call the white label or OEM. OEM is a slightly older term from kind of manufacturing, original equipment manufacturer, so it doesn't apply great to software, but it is a concept that's still used. Why is Processmaker great for embedding? Let me explain. So when you're building an application, let's say it's an ERP or maybe it's a CRM, there are a lot of things to consider in building that application. So if you're the product manager or product managers building that application, you have an interminable list of requests that people are asking to be improved in the application, added to the application. Inevitably, workflow is one of those items. Now there's a problem with that, in that workflow becomes a feature in your application, and it's a feature where you might not do a great job building it because you're not a specialist in it. And workflow is a pretty complex topic, and I'll give you an example. When a product manager builds workflow into their applications, they're not usually thinking about the end-to-end engine and all of the permutations of what a workflow could be. So they might forget to add the ability to run things in parallel. They might forget or not have the time, or it might not have been asked of them to add an escalation path. So if something doesn't complete in a certain amount of time, you need to be able to escalate it. And then these things have to get added in afterwards. The end becomes a sort of spaghetti product. And so although workflow is a feature in so many products, it's usually not their strongest feature. And when it's not a strength, it actually becomes a weakness, and your competitors can then prey on it. So we see ERPs that have maybe good workflow and then ERPs that don't have great workflow. And a way to then turn that weakness into a competitive advantage, we believe, is partner with somebody like Processmaker, embed our engine in your ERP, in your CRM, or in your document management or enterprise content management system, and make workflow into a strength, process orchestration into a strength. And that's assuming you already have some low-code building technology, which a lot of these tools are going to have. So maybe it's just the process orchestration engine. You can use all of your existing interfaces and just have our engine power those interfaces. And we have built the embedded engine in some of the top brands today, many of which I can't mention, but top ERPs, top CRMs, top document management systems in numerous industries, and we consider it a real strength. Processmaker is built on a real modern infrastructure. It has all the sort of tooling that your developers would expect to see. Everything in Processmaker is done through a REST API, so there are no hidden backdoors that you have to learn. There's no cryptic languages. You can use any language you want across our engine. So we really believe it's ideal for anybody building out a modern enterprise product that needs workflow or process orchestration as a feature in their product. We think that's where it's really needed. We have another aspect to our white label program, which is for a different type of user, and that's for a customer that wants to build an application and market the application. So they may have an extreme level of industry knowledge in a specific field, want to build an app, not want to spin up an entire team to build that app, or may want to add on an app to something they're already offering. In Processmaker, you can generally build those apps in record time, in days or weeks as opposed to months or even years. And then you would never know that Processmaker is running because there's no reference to Processmaker in the interfaces. You've now built an app, and if you are effectively selling a document management system, maybe you've built an app to do something very specific that your sales or professional services teams want to sell alongside what they're already selling. And so we can deliver revenue, recurring revenue, especially to these types of SaaS companies, very quickly, very efficiently, and in a manner that's not disruptive to the existing product roadmap.
So does Processmaker offer pre-built applications, or is it just a platform where the developers need to run wild?
I like to say that applications or solutions are always better than a platform. There's an old saying in enterprise software, actually it comes from somewhere else, but when you're an enterprise software platform or toolkit, you are a hammer looking for a nail, in which case everything starts to look like a nail. So that's a problem. People really want to solve specific solutions. So obviously there are people that build solutions, and for that you need the platform. But if you're a business, you want the solution. You're focused on a business problem, you're trying to solve the business problem. The building of that solution is usually not your priority. You just want the solution and you want it to work. So at Processmaker, we offer a platform, and that's for builders, but we also offer solutions. So we've built some very specific solutions ourselves, which we take to market in very select and very few markets. But to give you an example of some of the solutions we've built, we have a practice in banking. So we have built a number of applications for community banking, specifically commercial account opening. We've built a best-in-breed end-to-end solution for commercial account opening. And treasury services, so the management and delivery of treasury services for community banks is something that tends to be very complex, long-running, sometimes paper or Excel driven, and we've automated that end-to-end and incorporated other services into the solution that you would expect to find. In higher education, we're delivering a number of very, very specific applications, and in manufacturing, we're also delivering very specific applications. So we intend to deliver very specific applications ourselves to a limited set of markets and partner with partners who want to go after other markets. And again, you can think about it in the following way. If you think about Legos, we essentially make Legos. But in today's world, I know my kids want the particular Lego set, so they might want the Millennium Falcon Lego set instead of just the base Lego set. And so either you want the Millennium Falcon Lego set, or you want Legos. And so that translates into platforms, kits or templates, and solutions. For a business, solution is always really what you want to try and implement in your business. If you need adaptations to it, then you probably want the kit so you can make your solutions more quickly. And then at the very base level, you want a platform to build these things if you're the one building.
All right, and so what would be the benefits of using Processmaker as a BPM platform as opposed to building your own in-house solution to solve these kinds of problems?
Many customers will build in-house solutions, custom applications. That, I believe, is a trend that will start to disappear because it corresponds inversely to the rise of the low-code, no-code solutions. As low-code, no-code solutions become more and more prevalent and better and easier to use, then having developers develop, you're still going to have developers develop, but they might be citizen developers, and they're going to be developing instead of in a base language like Java, they're going to develop on top of the platform. And the reason for that is speed, maintainability, governance. So from the CIO or IT perspective, you have some guardrails, you know how your applications are built, and you're going to have many applications built for an enterprise. And then you don't have lots of different languages you're supporting, lots of different coding styles that you're supporting. So I think that the low-code platforms will eventually, there is this concept that eventually anybody will write software. That's the idea of the citizen developer. We're already seeing that. There is a stat saying that by 2025, half of the applications built in the enterprise will be built by citizen developers, people with no formal coding experience. And I believe that is true. So we will see better interfaces, we'll see more natural language interfaces, we see visual interfaces, and there will be a lot of experimentation with these interfaces. They'll continue to develop, and there's just very little reason why you would go, it's basically like saying today, well, why don't I write my own programming language in order to build an application? So write at the ones and zeros in order to have a layer in order to build an application. So you start with kind of the base layer. You start with then you have programming language, then you have frameworks. We all use frameworks today when building software. Then you have low-code application frameworks. Then you have kits, and then you have applications or solutions above that. There's going to be room in all of those for people to participate and really thrive.
So does robotic process automation make BPM obsolete? What is the difference between those two technologies?
RPA, or robotic process automation, is a hot market right now. It really was the hot market, and now low-code and low-code application platforms has become probably equally hot. And we get the question all the time, does RPA make BPM obsolete, or I'm looking at an RPA platform instead of something like Processmaker. Doesn't Processmaker compete with it? And we need to explain that it's exactly the opposite. In fact, RPA is only a benefit or an enabler to Processmaker. There's a couple famous kind of statements out there about RPA, that RPA is the digital duct tape of the enterprise. It's funny because RPA has always existed. It's really just recorded macros, screen scraping to achieve an objective when there's no interface. So you want to get into an application, retrieve some data, then manipulate the data or pass it to another system. And that's been around for a long time. It suddenly became very popular. There's a particular analyst that kind of takes credit for adding the word robotic, and that's kind of what made it so popular. But it's always been around. For Processmaker, we look at ourselves as the backbone of the process orchestration engine. And just like we might call another application through an interface, through an API, we may also call another application through a bot, through RPA. So we might call a bot to go access a application where we don't have access to the API, or where we need to do some manipulation. Maybe we need to pull a list from Excel, insert it into a website, wait for the response, retrieve that, and then we can move along with our process. So Processmaker tends to automate long-running, complex processes. RPA tends to automate short-lived, short-running interfaces. So RPA in some way competes with interfaces, so integration platforms as a service, or iPaaS. But even they're kind of different sides to the same coin. Now, yes, these things are all tending to converge. Many BPM players are buying RPA players and vice versa. And that's because the ultimate goal is to automate an end-to-end process or build an end-to-end application. And there's room for all these things along the way when you're doing that. So if anything, RPA has just enabled so many more processes to be automated. It's allowed us to incorporate bots into a process and be able to deliver an end-to-end solution to customers.